Hey guys, Crypto Sunday, and it's a down week, particularly down week for me. This seems largely a down week on the altcoins, and it's in particular the sort of Solana ecosystem and Solana itself. But yeah, let's have a look at some news. Quite a bit this week. Looking at the coin shares report, it's quite a significant inflow week. $3.3 billion. Pretty solid. It looks like we're getting a red one next week, which we'll come to in a sec. But yeah, week before, pretty strong. 326 million into Ethereum alongside the Bitcoin. Still a small outflow from the multi-asset funds. A bit of a flip on Solana and XRP for once. We've been sort of XRP getting far more than Solana for a month or two now, and yeah, 4 million into Solana, despite a fairly down week this week. They were getting a little bit, and 37 million out of XRP, so quite a bit. A little bit into Sui, quite a bit, 12.7 million into shorting Bitcoin. So they only have 97 million in total. So that's quite a lot of people. This isn't all of the people shorting Bitcoin. This is just in short ETFs. So they could be in them for various reasons. Hedging, there might be people that are super long and just wanting a very small hedge, on a 3x short Bitcoin or something. And then, people will short on leverage platforms, exchanges, and all sorts. But I thought that was interesting. Chainlink, small inflow, and into some others. On the countryside, Hong Kong and Germany with quite a bit of inflow. Sort of fairly small numbers elsewhere. Sweden and Switzerland outflows. I think the AUM is quite interesting though. Canada have 6.4 billion in AUM. Brazil are up to 1.5 billion now. Germany 6.2 billion, Sweden 3.7, and Switzerland 6.2. So yeah, you're getting some sizable amounts now, and all of these countries excluded, there's 18 billion around somewhere. So not quite sure where that is or what sort of products they are, but thought that was interesting. So looking at the recent week, it was a 4-day week due to Bank Holiday Monday, US and UK Bank Holiday essentially. And then we got 2 days of inflows, 385 and 432, and then two slightly larger overall outflows, 346 and 616 million. Finally, with an outflow from the BlackRock. They had been getting, 4 days in a row of inflow into BlackRock outweighing outflow from pretty much everyone else. And then BlackRock, got 430 million out. So at long last, he's still getting continuous, especially on the down days, outflow from the old grayscale, 80 million, 100 million, sort of every now and then, but there's still, billions and billions, tens of billions in grayscale, which is quite a help for them. I think they're making sort of, with a 1.5% fee, looking at $300-400 million a year. So I think any trouble that they were in sort of melts away really if you're taking that much in and you sort of be a bit conservative. Ethereum, on the other hand, not seeing the same. If you look sort of on the right-hand side, it's quite a long stretch of inflows, which Bitcoin has had, to be fair, but last couple of days turned. But Ethereum, constant, small numbers into BlackRock, but fairly constant, double figures, 50 million, 70 million, 30s, a little bit into the Fidelity one as well. That hasn't seen all that much recently. Small amounts into the new grayscale and sort of elsewhere. Only a little bit coming out of the old grayscale, which again, 2.5% fee. The Bitcoin one's 1.5%, and that's a lot. But yeah, Ethereum sort of doing a bit better. We had the weekly MicroStrategy 4,020 Bitcoin added, 427 million. Bought at 106,000. So this is the first week that price is currently lower than his buy for sort of about a month now. Not a huge amount lower, of course. Still just under 70,000 average price. And yeah, they hold 580,250 Bitcoin. And still talking about yield to date, of course. One stock I'm keeping an eye on, not to buy, but more as an indication on potentially where the miners could go. CoreWeave, the company that did the deal with Core Scientific, and I would imagine going on this sort of market cap at $53 billion would be potentially looking to expand. It looks like they've been, we sort of reported before, they've been doing deals with OpenAI and Google and people like that outside of just Microsoft. They were sort of heavy on Microsoft, but yeah, stock's been doing incredibly well since the IPO, 151% up in the last month, and yeah, 178% up since the IPO back in March. So yeah, $53 billion. They could potentially be looking to expand and do a deal with sort of potentially Cypher, Iron, Riot Platforms, someone like that. So yeah, I'm certainly keeping an eye on them. Got Trump buying as well, or Trump Media, his media company, sort of looking to the strategy route, the MicroStrategy route, $2.3 billion in net capital raised from 2.44 billion raise. You obviously have to pay a little bit of fees on that, and yeah, they're looking to basically put all 2.32 billion to purchase Bitcoin for its treasury. They're not sort of mentioning any other coins, unsurprisingly. They want to put it all into Bitcoin, but 2.3 billion is quite a sizable amount to be buying. You know, MicroStrategy buying sort of 400 million this week. You know, $1 billion for them is sort of a reasonably big buy and should be seen as a big buy. I always go back to you know, what I think kind of kicked off, or you know, put a bit of a rocket under the bull market in 2020, 2021 time, was Tesla buying $1 billion worth. So we're now getting $1 billion sort of most weeks from somebody, it seems, and $2.3 billion now from Trump Media. Obviously, we're at a much higher price than it was back then. You know, $1 billion into Bitcoin when it's 16,000 is a lot different to when it's 105. But yeah, fairly good news. So we had the Bitcoin 2025 conference in Vegas, and sort of you'd think this would be the headline topic, but there wasn't actually all that much said from what I've read. You had a sort of keynote speech, if you like, from JD Vance, and this was sort of seen as hugely positive, but largely seemed to be just echoing, you know, some might say almost copy and paste the Trump speech from last year at Nashville. So yeah, he said, you know, an awful lot of things. They want to be, you know, a crypto hub, and you know, Bitcoin is for the people, and all of that. It's sort of a lot of cliches. People noted that there was nothing at all said about the strategic Bitcoin reserve, and yeah, it was just sort of largely a positive sentiment. So not a huge amount happened there. I haven't really seen too many other notable sort of announcements from the conference as well. It was just sort of a lot of companies and a lot of people basically, as I say, talking positive sentiment. And you know, price sort of unsurprisingly, it seems, if you look at past years at these big conferences, you never get the sort of the big price bump that you might be thinking from sort of a big conference. A lot of people sort of cynically say that everybody who would be buying is there. So yeah, that basically takes a bit of a break. Keeping an eye on the state level Bitcoin reserves as well, because the obviously the national US one is basically just putting the seized coins in their reserve and saying that they won't sell, whereas states, I presume, I haven't sort of heard any states that currently own Bitcoin, whether sort of seized from local criminal activity. I haven't sort of heard anything like that. So any that pass a bill, I guess passing the bill doesn't necessarily mean they have to go out and buy. It would just give them permission to buy. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, if they pass a bill, it would mean new buying because they don't currently have any. So you've got 5 states that are sort of passed / still in progress. Texas, they're sort of showing us it's passed part the way through. Arizona has sort of failed partly and, has passed. I haven't sort of gone into huge detail because I'm not all that optimistic on many of these getting, fully enacted and actually be buying Bitcoin anytime soon. But it does seem some are getting there. You've got New Hampshire, I notice, and Nebraska and Oregon. All 3 are down as just passed, not in progress, not failed or anything. So potentially those, not exactly massive states, I don't think, but they have a fair bit of money, and I expect sort of a few 100 million to them, or even $1 billion. Probably isn't that much money. So yeah, you could get another company putting some in the Bitcoin reserve, and that is potentially not debt-backed Bitcoin. It's just sort of cash. So that would be good if some of those start buying. We had Nigel Farage at the Bitcoin conference sort of saying that if he gets into power, he was going to lower capital gains tax on Bitcoin to 10% and sort of various other things. He wants to be for the Bitcoin community and everything. And then he comes out and sort of says that Reform are accepting Bitcoin donations. And you sort of think, is he just appealing to a crowd that might give him a bit of fundraising? Still sort of think they're, very popular at the moment, but unlikely to get in. So a bit of Bitcoin donation to help them along wouldn't be too bad. And yeah, he'll sort of placate the community and, say he's for the people to get some of that money. So I thought this was a little bit, if you sort of, maybe I'm being cynical, but if you read into it, this seemed like a bit of a cash grab to me. Was just having a quick look at the XRP Masari report as well. Not a token that I own anymore. Sold out at sort of, far too low a price, but it's 3rd on the market cap now, I think, still. So is worth sort of keeping an eye on, see if they're competing with my coins. And yeah, it doesn't exactly look like they're doing, bonkers numbers. Revenue is up significantly, to be fair, 1.1 million. But again, that's not massive revenue. Daily active addresses up to 134,000. That is, quite a sizable jump. We sort of noted a couple of quarters ago, everyone was getting excited and the numbers were, down on previous quarters, and even 55,000 wasn't a huge number, but yeah, 134,000 is sort of rocketing up. Daily transactions isn't really up. It's down, 0.8 million on this quarter last year. New addresses is going up 500,000 addresses. So I guess that's in the quarter. Issued, market cap is quite a bit. And ecosystems, that does seem to be rising, 200 odd million of coins, deployed, I guess, on XRP, order book sort of rising, market maker volume rising, NFTs, no one likes NFTs anymore, it does seem. But yeah, they do seem to be doing sort of reasonably well, has to be said. Seeing more sort of announcements of countries and companies, going to be using them. So it is one to watch out for sure. And looking at global liquidity, we had a bit of a drop after a sort of bumpy ride up and down. It does seem to be almost following exactly the global liquidity at the moment. The sort of previous week rode up, and because this is not with the 10-week, 12-week offset that some people have been sort of putting on these charts. If you look at the sort of longer term, a lot of people had been sort of moving the global liquidity forward 3 months and sort of saying that it leads. You sort of had this big period up towards mid to late 2024, and then the price went afterwards, and it sort of came down, and then the price came down afterwards again. So people are sort of projecting, I guess, this great big move forward. It might be moving up and down with the price at the moment, but that could just sort of be coincidence of this sort of choppy but up period, and people are sort of projecting this great big rise to mean this great big rise going into the potentially 130, 150,000. Haven't quite seen that just yet, but I guess we'll keep positive and optimistic. So portfolio wise, as I say, it was largely on the Solana side. Bitcoin down 2.4%, so that has caused a bit. Solana 10% down. That's obviously not helpful. Ethereum, the only coin that I've got that is up 1.1%, so that's held up reasonably well. Chainlink down 9%. Helium down 21.5%. Underperformer for the week. Gito down 15%, Radium down 18.5%, Metaplex down 15%, and Honey only down 3.4%, although it's been having a very, very rough time of it recently. Pretty much all of these down pretty hard now in the 50s, 60s%, except Helium. But yeah, it's been a little bit rough, but I'll have to see if that global liquidity can start putting a fire under Bitcoin and then move everything else. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below and like and subscribe. See you soon.